Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching the Today I Found Out YouTube channel, and in the video today we're looking at why movie theatre concessions are quite so expensive. Just before we get started, I will say that this video is brought to you by The Great Courses Plus. The Great Courses Plus are giving our viewers a 1-month free trial, and plans then start at just $14.99 a month after that. You can show your support for Today I Found Out by checking out that free trial at thegreatcoursesplus.com/brainfood. In 1948, the Supreme Court ended the stranglehold Hollywood studios and distributors had on the US movie market, declaring the Big Eight a monopoly and ordering them to divest their ownership of movie theaters and cease other non-competitive practices. With US and Paramount Pictures et al., the court opened the movie industry to independent producers and theaters and indelibly changed the way we see films and the films we see. Prior to the government's efforts to break their trust, a handful of Hollywood studios and distributors controlled nearly all of the movie theaters in the United States, either through direct or indirect ownership or by the system of block booking. With this latter, the big boys insisted that independent theaters contract to run a block of films, some set number. Between controlling the distribution and exhibition and its strong-arm negotiating, these few companies decided not only where and when any movie would be shown, but also set admission prices. Clearly anti-competitive, beginning in 1928, Uncle Sam sought to limit the studio's power. Identified by the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, as having a monopoly over 98% of domestic movie distribution, the Justice Department brought suit in 1929 against Paramount Famous Lasky Corporation, First National Pictures, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, Universal, United Artists, Fox, Path Exchange, FBO Pictures, Vitagraph, and Educational Film Exchanges, together the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America, or MPPDA. Declared a trust in the lower courts, the Supreme Court affirmed the decision on November 25, 1930. But since the country was in the mire of the Great Depression, that decision was never enforced, and rather, in 1933, under the protection of the National Industrial Recovery Act, the studios and the government agreed that the former could continue with business as usual. That is, they continued to own and control movie distribution, and block booking continued as well. Nonetheless, as the economy improved, the government decided to limit the big studios' grip on distribution, and in July of 1938 they filed another suit, this time against 7 studios: Paramount, Loews, RKO, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, Columbia, and Universal, and one of the major distributors, United Artists. The trial was halted only 2 weeks after it had begun, and on November 20th, 1940, the parties reached a compromise that allowed the studios to keep ownership of theaters, but inhibited block booking. This angered independent movie producers, including Charlie Chaplin, Samuel Goldwyn, Mary Pickford, Orson Welles, David O. Selznick, and Walt Disney, and together they formed the Society of Independent Motion Picture Producers, SIMPP. This was in order to fight the consent decree. Effective, eventually, the antitrust suit returned to federal court, and on December 31st, 1946, the District Court of New York found the defendants in violation of antitrust laws. It then ordered that bidding had to be competitive and movies were to be licensed individually, as well as prohibiting admission price fixing, block licensing of copywritten movies, and joint ownership of theaters by distributors and exhibitors, among other things. The parties returned to the Supreme Court, and on May 3rd, 1948, it entered its decision. The High Court agreed with the District Court on most of the points, including affirming the prohibition against price fixing, joint ownership, major franchises, and block licensing. However, the court reversed and remanded on the issue of competitive bidding, noting, "The system would be apt to require as close a supervision as continuous receivership. The judiciary is unsuited to affairs of business management and control, though the power of contempt is crude and clumsy." This Supreme Court decision still controls movie distribution and exhibition in the US, and today studios split gross profits with theaters. But how they do it is actually pretty interesting. During the first few weeks of a movie's run, the studio receives the bulk of gross ticket sales. While the details vary based on the deals between the theaters and the distributors, it's quite common for the theater to fork over 90 to 95% of the revenue from the film on week 1, perhaps 80% on week 2, etc., etc. By the end of the movie's run, with the fewest people going to see a film, the theatre is taking the lion's share of the gross. When averaging the whole run, the theatre might only get 20 to 30% of the gross ticket sales, with these numbers varying a bit based on a variety of factors. This system provides a strong incentive for the studios to make movies with built-in demand, in the form of a superhero in the lead or a plot drawn from a hit book, and the potential to open with a bang. Over time, this has developed such that it's not uncommon today for theatres to take a loss for a given movie based on ticket sales alone, particularly movies from major studios. There's really little the theatres can do about this, however, as they have extremely limited leverage in negotiations, particularly for small theatre chains. They can't make the movies themselves, and certainly can't turn away major blockbusters, lest people stop going to their theatres. In addition, if a given small theatre chain is dealing with a major movie studio, the studio may also say something like, well, if you don't put this movie on 1/4 of your screens for this amount of time, and give us X% of the gross, you'll not be seeing any more Warner Brothers films offered to your theatres. Major theatre chains have a little more leverage in these negotiations, particularly when dealing with smaller studios, but still not that much in general. What this all means is that the theatre must find other ways to make money outside of ticket sales. The solution, of course, is for them to charge ridiculous prices for concessions, which are necessary to keep them in business, at least in the way that things are run today. The concession hike actually began in earnest around the 1970s. By the way, for reference, even with the exorbitantly high prices on food items, only about 4% of a theatre's gross revenue in any given year is profit, despite typically an 85% profit margin on concession sales themselves, according to Australian market research company Ibis World. So, as 55-year veteran of the movie theatre business, Jack Oberleitner observed, theatres have left the movie business and are now in the popcorn business. On the other side, big movies cost pretty amazing sums to produce, and when they flop, that means huge losses for movie studios, despite the favourable terms they get with theatres. Since many feel this is a direct consequence of the prohibition of studio ownership of theatres, they are calling for a change in the law. One of the many arguments they make is claiming ending the prohibition would have the benefit of allowing studios to target releases geographically to better place movies in more favourable markets and broaden the types of movies that they make. As an example, they point to Magic Mike, which hugely outperformed in St. Louis, Nashville, and Kansas City, but had disappointing sales in New York and LA. If the studios controlled the theatres, they would have shortened Magic Mike's run on the coasts and perhaps shown it more in the Midwest, thereby suffering fewer losses, earning greater profit, and giving people more of what they actually wanted. Another potential benefit of studio ownership of movie theatres is that it would shorten the time it takes a stale film to move from theatres to home release. As one industry insider noted, if 92% of the gross of a movie comes in the first 4 weeks, wouldn't it make sense for a studio to put out a movie and say after 4 weeks we're moving this to DVD? Beyond that, studios would have some small incentive to lower the price of concessions in order to increase the number of people coming to the theatres and thus increase ticket sales and hype for the movies. If Disney-owned theatres saw higher volumes of ticket sales for their movies and ticket prices were reasonably close between studios, Disney movies would consistently be topping the box office charts. Under the current system, theatres really have little incentive to focus on overall volume of customers, instead trying to focus on the right customers, ones that buy not only tickets, but are also willing to pay the high prices for concessions. Of course, with this would come the downsides, many of which were seen before US and Paramount Pictures et al. So I really hope you enjoyed that video. Now, as I said at the top, this video is brought to you by The Great Courses Plus. Now, for those who watch regularly on this channel, you know that The Great Courses Plus is a regular sponsor, and they keep coming back because you guys like them, and that is great. And if you are one of the people who hasn't had a chance yet to check out The Great Courses Plus, now is your chance, because they are offering a free month of unlimited access to all of their courses totally for free for our viewers. So if you are new here and I haven't introduced you to The Great Courses Plus before, well, now's my chance. The Great Courses Plus are an on-demand video learning platform. They've got a huge library of 7,000 lectures for you to watch, and these are from experts and some of the top professors in the world. And as part of that free trial and your subscription, if you decide to continue, you get access to all of it totally unlimited for free. It's not like you buy one course and then you have to buy another one. For that fixed fee, you get access to everything. And then you can watch this wherever you want, whether you want to watch it on TV or on the computer or on your phone, wherever, whenever you want. So as I like to do in these videos, I like to make a recommendation based on something you just watched because, well, hey, if you're at the end of this video, you probably liked it because you watched it all the way through, and now you're watching me tell you about the Great Courses Plus. So they've got loads of videos on business and finance, and these go beyond anything we talked about in this video. There's actually a course which has over 20 hours of lectures on basically the history of the world's economy. It's amazing. I'm showing a clip from it on the screen now. But what I've been watching recently is actually going beyond their academia stuff and looking at the hobbies and leisure section, because they go beyond, you know, kind of just business and finance and maths and kind of all of the traditional academic subjects. Basically, this video is being shot on a new camera, and it's also a pretty amazing still camera. So I was looking at kind of learning a bit more about photography, and so I went over to the Great Courses Plus, which I have a subscription to, and there's this huge course put together by National Geographic on how to shoot better photos. And I mean, if you've ever picked up a National Geographic, you know that they have some pretty amazing photographers. So I was looking at this and just learning basically how to be a better photographer, the sort of thing that would cost a fortune to go and learn in a classroom. So yeah, basically, if you haven't already, go and check out the Great Courses Plus and try that free month trial. I mean, what have you got to lose? Just go to thegreatcoursesplus.com/brainfood. There's also a link in the description below. And as always, going through that link does help support us at Today I Found Out, and we appreciate you for doing it. And as always, thanks for watching.